Welcome to my podcast. My name is Corrinala. I come to you from the Pacific Northwest, where I live with my partner, our 2 kitties, and 2 adopted Mustangs. Information about the Wildhorse adoption program will be in the episode description box. This podcast covers knitting projects, my horsemanship journey, and my other passions like vegetable gardening and bicycling. If you're new here, I hope you find the content interesting. If you're a returning viewer, it's always great to have old friends. The format of this channel typically includes musings on an early walk to the barn to feed the horses, then knitting content, some catch up on the horsemanship journey, and finally more musings or maybe a little bicycling footage if I was lucky enough to get out. Enjoy, and I hope to see you soon. Hey friends, welcome to episode, I think it's 185 of this podcast. It's a very chilly morning. It's about, I think 23 degrees Fahrenheit this morning, which is, pretty cold for the Pacific Northwest. So I'm bundling up, still in the laundry room, getting ready to go feed the horses. It is Friday, January 23rd, so marching right along. Just saw the school bus go by out the window to pick up the neighbor kids across the street from us. So I don't really have anything to say about that, except that, life goes on. What is going on this week? So probably not a spoiler alert, since you've already seen that my crochet shawl, wedding shawl, oops, accidentally turned on the dryer. And that is only partially true. It is almost done. Sorry for the Velcro. I'm wearing heavier gloves because I've noticed my hands getting cold in the morning when it's been this cold. So yeah, that's only partially true. I am almost done. I am on the last row, the border, and I expect to have that finished tonight. So I'm not going to show that today. What I might do, and I haven't decided yet, is I may finish it tonight and then, do the knitting portion of my podcast on Saturday. So I don't think that's going to upset many of you, or any of you really. So I'm putting on my boots, and when it's 23 degrees, and I'm going to do the smart thing and turn on my headlamp while I'm still, there we go. So I'm not fumbling with it later in the dark. Anyway, putting on boots that have been outside. It's not as bad as I thought it was going to be, and certainly walking helps. I'm aware that in the Midwest it is a lot colder, like 50 degrees colder. It's hard to imagine because 23 degrees Fahrenheit is very cold. And my sister texted this morning. She lives in Wisconsin, and it was minus 24 degrees. Oh, looks like there's a big branch down. Looks like it came down last night. So what's been going on this week? Well, it was eventful. Randy got in a car accident on Wednesday. Somebody pulled out in front of him and hit him on the passenger side and basically knocked his vehicle over. So the first I heard about it, Randy sent me a photo of his vehicle in the middle of the street on its side, and I was like, what is that? So he's okay. He was shaken up, of course, a little sore. So we went to get him checked out, and he checked out clear, just advised to ice and apply heat to the sore spots. Hi, Bragi. I'll talk more about horse training. Bragi has been Bragi. So curious how much he didn't eat hardly any hay last night. So not sure why that is. So I'm just gonna watch him. You can see him. Hi-oh. Good morning. Good morning. Okay. So interesting. I worked with him yesterday before feeding time because he was just really distracted by something out here, and I'm not convinced that it helped. So my trainer's coming today, and hopefully we'll figure that out. So I'm gonna get to feeding, and I'll talk to you soon. Hey friends, welcome to the crafting knitting part of this episode. I put in a bonus, and it'll be at the end, a bonus horsemanship segment. So yesterday I did my walk out to the barn like I usually do, and then a lot happened yesterday after my trainer came, and it was a lot of good things. So I decided to talk about that on my walk out to the barn this morning, but rather than inundate people who are not necessarily interested in horsemanship by putting those two together at the beginning, I thought I would put it that segment at the end for you to watch if you are interested. It is, I want to say it's about 12 minutes long. So I had a lot to say. So let's get on with the crafty knitting stuff. You will have noticed that from the title of this episode that I did finish my wedding shawl. It is now blocking, and I will put, I filmed some of that, so I will also include that in this episode, probably after this knitting section. And I will say that this knitting section is probably going to be a little bit short because I spent so much time on the wedding shawl, but that's okay. I think you're going to get a full episode, so I hope you have something crafty to work on, or you're washing dishes or folding laundry or whatever it is you do when you watch my podcast. And also I hope you have something nice to drink. I keep looking at my cup of tea over here. So I am drinking some herbal tea that's supposed to help my blood pressure, and I'll talk about that later in life stuff. We did have a big life event earlier this week, which I will share. So first of all, what am I wearing? I have my computer in my lap, but I am just going to hold it. This is called the women's sweater. It's a design by Plymouth. It could have been a free pattern. I have it linked in my Ravelry project page, which is in the show description box. So this is a Cascade Heritage yarn. It was knit in pieces. The buttons are kind of these coconut shell buttons, which are pretty cool. I have been kind of thinking about, it is a cardigan. I never undo the buttons. I was kind of thinking about sewing the front together and making the buttons more decorative so it would hang more straight. But I don't know. I still wear it. So I typically start wearing it in December. I'm going to scoot up. Hi there, everyone. And then probably stop wearing it in usually the end of February. So Randy gave me this yarn for Valentine's. In fact, he gave me a couple skeins of yarn for Valentine's Day. It was back in 2018. And I didn't know what to make. And then I came across this pattern. So I went back to the yarn store and bought enough yarn to make this. And I finished it in, I would say, the fall of 2018. So I wasn't keeping great project notes, but I do have the pattern linked. And my vest is falling off my chair because it is cold up here. This is where I'm in my office. So, and I keep a down vest and actually a quilt that my mom made on the back of this chair for when it gets really cold. So, and I did talk about the weather this morning on the walk out to the barn, so I won't belabor that point. Maybe what I will do, since I'm going to talk about finished objects, is I'll talk about, because you'll see the wedding shawl, but I have a second finished object. Surprise, surprise. I just finished them this morning. And these are the Vanilla is the New Black socks. So made out of a Christmas Advent yarn by Legacy Fiber Artz. The colorway is String Lights Repair Shop. So it was really fun to knit. And this is this kind of nifty heel, this ribbed heel pattern. And this was a sock set. So super fun. I used a Chowgu 9-inch circular needle in size 1.5. So I'll just show you the needle. It has all the doodads hanging off. So that's what they look like. So 9-inch circulars, and here's the stitch markers I use, and the row counter. And then I do have to use magic loop to close the tote for the last 2 rows. So I can't quite get, I mean, there's a way I could do that. I could make the, eliminate the last decrease row and just add on to the sock by, when I transition to the toe, just knitting a couple of rounds and then doing the decrease to, let me see, I think it gets down to 24 stitches. So I could just decrease to, so there's 2, so probably 28 stitches, and that would still fit my foot just fine. So this pattern is by Anna Fletcher, and I am probably going to keep knitting that, so super fun. But let me show you the yarn I have left over. So the Legacy Fiber Artz Advent, they come in micro skeins, so these are 50-gram skeins, and this is how much I have left of the main color, and which will go perfect in my 100 acre wood blanket. And then I have this, it's kind of sparkly, that I'm going to weigh it, but I probably have enough for toes in some other project. So I'm not necessarily looking up at my scrap containers. I may not put that in there. I may not put this in my blanket because, I don't know, white in a blanket is kind of weird, I think, at least in my opinion. So, you know, if you like a white blanket, please feel free to share, and certainly share what your pattern preferences are. So 2 finished objects in 1 week. How about that? So I did work on my 100 acre wood blanket. I did work on the Talvinen sweater, which is that colorwork sweater by Caitlin Hunter. I don't think I worked on my Purr-fect socks, and I did not work on my surf wax socks. Last week I said I was going to frog. For those of you who aren't familiar with knitting terms, frogging means, so it's just a play on words. So when you are taking apart a project, you are ripping it, rip it, rip it, rip it, ribbit, ribbit, ribbit. So it's just evolved into frogging. So that's what that means. And what I did do is cast on a new project, and this was the bag. This is the well-loved bag that Randy made me with his industrial sewing machine. So the shawl was in this bag. I frogged it and immediately started cast on a sweater, kind of like I said I was going to, in this book by Stephanie Lotven, who is also known as Talvinen Knits. I think I put this book in my resources section, so if I didn't, call me out on it. Anyway, so I cast this on 1/16, which was last Friday, which would have been after I published. So here is what the sweater looks like. It's a cardigan. I can't quite see. Yeah, okay. So it's the main body of the cardigan is knit in the plain color, and then it's sock arms because you use self-strapping sock yarn for the sleeves. So, oh, here's another good picture. Here's another, probably a more representative example of what I am going to do. So I am using the Clarity yarn, which is a Knit Picks fingering weight gloss. And my intention was to combine two slightly different colors of yarn. So here is the Clarity in gloss. I also have a similar color in Stroll. I think you can see this is a colder color, this is a warmer color, and I was going to fade them. However, the cardigan is knit in pieces, and that means I would have a gazillion ends. So I am not solving my my yarn stash down problem because I ordered 2 more balls of the Clarity yarn, and I'm still waiting for those in order to finish this project. So main body of the yarn, and what are the sleeves going to be? Check this out. So ignore this mini because it is not going to go in this, but isn't that going to be cool? So this is the Jeepers Creepers colorway. It was a Halloween from 2025. So I must have got that early last year when I was in retail therapy for injuring my shoulder, my right shoulder, the first shoulder I injured last year. So I might line that up today, but you know, I have a lot of body to knit before I get to the sleeve, so no rush. I have a phone number in there that in my bag. I'm using Chogu red lace, of course, my favorite needles, in a US size 4. And I haven't got very far. I just cast this on, and it's just, so you start with, let me show you the right side. You start with one shoulder, so that's the right shoulder, I believe, and this is the left shoulder, and you join them. Is that right? Yes. And this is the back, and then you just knit back and forth for a long time. So that's where I'm at. This is, you know, when I don't need to think about something and I can just knit back and forth, like visiting my dad in the nursing home. That is a good example of when I would knit on this. However, well, I'll talk about this later when I talk about more life stuff. So that's the new cast on, and that's really all I brought up. This is a bag made by my mom. This is what the wedding shawl was in. It is still drying. I wet blocked it this morning, so in other words, I soaked it in kind of a yarn-friendly soap and water, and then it's on its blocking mats, which you will see in the video. So I have this much yarn from the first cone, and then I have a whole other cone of yarn. Bumble fingers. So I am not sure what I'm going to do with this, because I'm probably not going to knit another shawl in this color, and it is a little bit of a unique blend. It's a sport weight or DK weight, and it is 30% cashmere and merino. Now, usually I don't let fiber content bother me too much about mixing and matching and stuff like that, because you know, you start wearing it and it just sort of conforms to what it needs to conform to. So I may use it for something. It has 450 yards per cone, so I'll have to think about that. I'm just going to hang on to it. I'm not going to get rid of it yet. So, pardon me, my nose itches. So that's really all the knitting content that I have. And I was just going to talk about sort of life stuff. I've already talked about the weather. It's been dry. It's been cold. There's still frost on the garage. I'm looking out on the roof. Randy's going to go for a bike ride, which I think he's very brave. I don't like to go for bike rides until it's above 50 degrees. So to get my exercise, as part of the Lucinda Green Rider Academy online course that I took, there was a Pilates instructor named Jessie, or Jess, and she's British, and she has the Rider Pilates Club, like rider as in horse rider. And she offered a free 5-day course, which I kind of held my nose and closed my eyes, and I did it because I've never done Pilates before, and some of the moves are very familiar, like in terms of yoga type moves. But I just, it's like 5 days I can do this. And I did it before work every day. So one immediate benefit was I kind of noticed my blood pressure stabilizing. So that's important. I'm really trying hard to manage my blood pressure without any pharmaceuticals. And I have a lot going on. We're planning our wedding. My dad has been under some sort of either hospital or nursing home care since Thanksgiving. He's getting to be an old guy, so we are just trying to support him the best way that we can. And then there was another thing that happened this week that I will talk about a little bit later. So all that to say, I finished the 5-day Pilates course, really liked it, liked the way I felt, liked the way it's impacting my blood pressure, influencing my blood pressure in a positive way. So I signed up for her 6-month course, and it starts in a couple weeks. But I plan on revisiting some of the courses or the classes that I still have access to. I will also say that each session is only about 25 minutes. So it's perfect for me in the morning before work, when I'm done knitting and drinking my first cup of tea, and before I go to work or sign into my computer at 6 a.m., I can do a class, and then I have a great start to my day. So I don't have much to say about gardening because it has been like overnight temperatures of 22 and 23 degrees. So not much going on there. I'm talked about horses, and you'll see that in the last segment of this podcast. Talked about my dad still being in the nursing home, so there hasn't been much change. I was going to relate that back to the knitting project. Got interrupted a couple times because our visit got interrupted a couple times. Ergo, my knitting got interrupted a couple times because we had to leave the room because Dad needed a nurse's assistance to do something, and we had to get up, sit up, get out of bed and into his wheelchair, and we just needed to give the nursing staff room and time to do that. So it was just easier for us to go in the other room. So I didn't get a lot of knitting done, but that's okay. Wedding planning. We picked up our marriage license. I mentioned that we were going to go last Friday afternoon. And, by the time that Randy got home from work, we were kind of questioning that decision because Friday afternoon traffic in the Pacific Northwest can be terrible. But actually, it went really well. We got down to the courthouse in easy, expected 20-mile drive on I-5 South. And no one was there. It turns out if you go like in the last hour that they're open on a Friday afternoon, there's no line. So we got our marriage license, super excited about that. And we made our way back. There was an accident on I-5 headed back north, but there was another way that we could bypass it and got home like before dark. So I could go out and feed the horses. not in the dark. So what happened this week that could possibly influence my blood pressure? Well, Randy got in a car accident. It was Wednesday morning-ish, I would say around 10. It wasn't his fault. He's not hurt. He got a little shaken up and has some, kind of sore muscles. But he was coming from a dentist appointment, going back to his office to go to work, and he wasn't on the freeway or anything like that. He was on a road approaching his office, and another car basically did a U-turn. I think those of you in the Midwest have a special term for that, which I will not say here, but if you know, you know. Anyway, that other driver basically pulled out in front of him, and Randy was driving his Toyota 4Runner, which is, kind of a tallish vehicle. And what happened was he saw this guy, and, tried to get out of his way, and he jerked the wheel to the left a little bit, the steering wheel, and that other driver hit him in the front passenger tire and just pushed his car over. So how did I find out about this? I get a text of a car on its side, a red vehicle on its side in the middle of the street. And I was like, oh, what is this? So then he called me and he told me about it. So, honestly, that almost broke me. I mean, because it's just, they just come out of nowhere, and there's nothing you can do. So there was nothing he could do, and I mean, thank God he wasn't hurt. All the airbags went off, so I went and picked him up and took him to the emergency room to get checked out, and he checked out fine. So very happy about that. We're just continuing the process of trying to find a replacement vehicle for him. He says no more 4Runners because his old 4Runner got hit, again, not his fault, in December of 2024. So he hadn't even had this car. Well, he had it just about a year because he got his notification to renew the tabs. So he's going to look for something else. Maybe even a minivan. We're at that age. We're certainly past having kids age. But, as far as practical vehicles, isn't a minivan perfect? So that is really all the life stuff I have on. I have also in my show notes what my yarn stash down, scrap down plans are. So if you're interested in that, I mean, basically I'm going to finish my current works in progress or whips, and I have a few ideas for other patterns that I am going to use, yarn I have in my stash. So that's it. Take care, everyone. Hug your loved ones and make sure you tell them that you love them, and have a great week. Okay, here is the shawl on the blocking mat. As you can see, it exceeds the blocking mat. It is still damp from being towel dry, and I'm trying to kind of pull out all these little picot edge. Harley is outside the door meowing because he really wants in here, but of course I am not going to let him in unsupervised with any of my knitting, so I have one of the wet blocking towels to help me escape the room without him getting in. So this is what it looks like. This is the Agnes Shawl. Just FYI, the quilt on the bed is one that my mom made, and this is our guest bed. So there's the big reveal. Hey friends, thought I'd give you some bonus walking out to the footage today, since I haven't done the regular part. of my podcast. Today is Saturday, January, must be the 24th, 2026. Had quite a bit of horsemanship yesterday that was revealing. So my trainer came out yesterday, and first we looked at Odin because I sent her a video of his post-arthritis treatment. That was with the syringe. You might remember from last week I was doing positive reinforcement syringe training with him, and the dosing went very well. He tolerates stuff like that really well. It certainly would have been a lot harder with Bragi. But the results of that video weren't all that great. So it's not like the Butte, which is the medication I think I may have mentioned. It didn't really help. Now, to be fair, it has been below freezing for a while now. Pardon the wobbles while I set the camera up so I can put on my boots. So the ground's been hard, and it's entirely possible that he could be sore from that. The round pen, however, is in the sun, so it's hard to say, and I haven't heard from my vet yet. Although one thing that we did notice is that he's got kind of the strange little hitch in his hind end as I asked him to trot, and then my trainer did that yesterday while we were videoing. I videoed. She asked him to move in a couple circles, and we kept it really short because clearly it's uncomfortable for him. So I'm hoping my vet has a chance to get back to me next week about next steps. So just want to show you, it is getting light in the sky. We've had 2 weeks of clear weather, and just the last week has been really cold, which is kind of nice, actually. I don't mind a bit, except for the cold fingers. I'm aware that it's dark for you, so like I said last time, it's easier to turn on your headlamp. There we go. I got it the first time. When you're still in the daylight, or it's still near the porch light. But here we are. And the purpose of this is just to remind Bragi that he doesn't need to be startled at everything, especially that's something that happens every day for, the entire winter that I come out here in the dark with a headlamp. So that was catch up with Odin. Bragi was on high alert, as he often is, and we are still working on trailer training with Bragi and thought we would reintroduce that. I worked with Bragi quite a bit on well, hey buddy. I'm watching him walk away. So he did really good yesterday. After my trainer worked with him, he was upset about the situation. I'm not sure what he was upset about, but we didn't leave. Yeah, hi cutie, we're talking about you. We didn't leave the situation. We just stood there and helped guide him, let him know that we are here for him, and he doesn't have to figure everything out. There's O. Good boy. So he looked at me. So anyway, he had, I don't know, can you see this? You've probably seen this before, but it's a fair walk up to where the truck and trailer are. So we have to navigate this. There is definitely a predator corridor, so you can see, hopefully, my headlamp. It's forested. I have seen a couple mountain lions here. So, predation is real here. They're probably not going to bother big horses that, weigh 1,100 pounds. We don't need to listen to O. empty his bladder. Anyway, so, you know, predation is real here. These guys are Mustangs. So Odin is just, he's so chill. He just doesn't even really think about stuff like that. It seems like O will get more alarmed about deer, which is interesting, but Bragi gets alarmed about everything. He's the neighborhood tattletale. So anyway, all that to say, my trainer just stood with him until he calmed down, till he got his brain back, and then we could carry on with what we had planned for the training. Now, he had another big blow up on the part of the driveway that's near the creek crossing. And, you know, she just worked with him until he settled, had his brain back. And then what's interesting, because we have done so much work, so much slow, intentional work with the trailer, is that by the time that we got to the trailer, it was almost as if he was like, oh, thank God, something familiar that I know I can do. So he did a great job in the trailer. And then we ended for the day, and he was also very, sorry for the Velcro gloves, but I'm not going to keep my gloves off very long because it's cold. So he was just a lot more connected. So after that, after my trainer left, one of the things I want to do is manage Odin's weight a little bit better, because with an arthritic horse, and I think with arthritic people, having extra weight does not help the situation. So I put the weight tape on him. He's been on a diet. I know you have been on a diet and it's terrible. And it wasn't, he's a big horse. Both my horses are big. They're over 15 hands, and Bragi, last time I put the weight tape on him, which was quite a while ago, Bragi was probably, sorry for the view of the wall, Bragi was about 1,150 pounds, and Odin was over 1,200 pounds, and he still is per that weight tape. Odin's a little bit more drafty, and Bragi is a little bit more kind of thoroughbredish. And Bragi's, I would say, about an inch higher in the withers than O is. Good morning, handsome. Good morning. See, you're not starving to death because there is hay on the floor. You could do some good housekeeping. Yeah, if you were eating, I don't know if you can see him. If you were eating every single scrap of hay, I'd be concerned. But he's not. All that to say, Bragi seemed curious after I was working with Odin, and for homework last week, my trainer had given me just an exercise to do with Bragi that is more what we call friendly game, which is just tossing the stick with the string over his back. It's meant to help a horse distinguish between energy of the trainer and intention. So the intention is, yeah, I'm going to fling this string over you, and it moves and it has some energy. But my intention is for you to just stand there or maybe walk slowly if that's what I'm asking you to do. Well, Bragi was struggling with that. He knows friendly game, but like I said, he was on high alert all last week. So my trainer suggested, let's just talk. We'll look at O while we're talking. So my trainer said, do really easy stuff with him, because part of it was that I had worked with him the night before, and he had a hard time just standing still to put his halter on. So, he eventually did it, but it was sort of like he held his nose and closed his eyes while I put the halter on. So I was going to start some of that easy stuff, and part of the easy stuff I was going to do, he loves to target stuff, it's like put his nose on stuff. So, for example, I used this green plastic lid as a target for his nose, and I asked him to touch it. He loves that.
So I was going to do that with him after I was done working with O, but I thought, well, why don't I just get the halter out and see how he feels about it? And, he kind of messed around a little bit, but he let me put it on, and I gave him a cookie, and then I took it off. And it's like, hey, thanks. And then I just stood there and scratched his itchy spots for him for a little bit. So with that, what I decided to do is he has been locked up in this, in his stall and in this gravel. Hey, cutie, good to see you. Thanks for coming up. He had been locked up in this graveled area, this little paddock for, come on in. Yeah, you want to touch your target? Yeah, let's do that. I'll demonstrate. But, he was just connected yesterday. So here, I don't know if you can see this. Good job. So he touches his nose to the target and he gets a cookie for that. Yeah, you're a good boy. So I decided to let him have his whole turnout area last night. It's been a long time since he had that. But, he showed me he can be responsible. I don't know if you can see him because he's a dark bay. But I'm going to give him some hay and I'm going to give them both some hay and carry on with breakfast. But I am going to do easy stuff this week. I'm going to do targeting, and I'm just going to put the halter on and take it off, because what I want is Bragi to be like, yeah, I want to hang out with you. So my theme for this week with Bragi is connection. For Odin, it's just like, I don't know, until I hear from my vet. I do have some stretching exercises for him. Some of them I don't quite understand. She's going to come out February 6th to do their dentals and all that kind of stuff. So I will ask her to demonstrate. So thank you for enduring this long horsemanship catch up, and I'll see you next time.